Today, we're opening up the case file on something that is, without a doubt, one of the most misunderstood and most critical concepts in business today: forensic conversion architecture. We're going to go deep and investigate the truth that lies just beyond the click.
So let's kick things off with a pretty chilling thought, something that's happening every single day in boardrooms all over the world. Right now, as you're listening to this, you are probably firing your best, most effective employees. And no, I'm not talking about your team members. I'm talking about your financial employees, your marketing dollars. Just picture this. You're looking at this clean, simple dashboard. It tells you that one channel is the hero, right? It's bringing in all the sales. And another one, it's a total dud. So you do the logical, quote-unquote, data-driven thing. You cut the failure and you pour all that money into the hero. And then something absolutely terrifying happens. Your total sales, the actual lifeblood of your business, they don't just dip, they crater, they vanish. And your business starts to starve, leaving you totally baffled, wondering, what on earth just happened? Well, what happened is you just became another victim of what we call the last click fallacy. It's this simple, seductive, and just completely disastrous belief that the final touch point, the person who took the order, did all the heavy lifting. It's a massive blind spot in modern business where you can see the results perfectly, but you are totally blind to the cause. You get trapped in this illusion that a sale is just a single, isolated event, but it's not. A sale is always the end of a journey. And here's the paradox of modern measurement. The easier a metric is to track, the less likely it is to be the whole truth. To really win, you have to evolve. You've got to stop chasing the ghost of the last click and start forensically modeling the reality of influence. So how do we do that? How do we actually start modeling influence and find the real truth? Well, our investigation today is going to follow a really clear path. First, we're going to examine the crime scene in the great data blindness, just to understand how we lost the trail. Then we'll open up the toolbox and look inside the weighting engine. After that, we'll dig into the psychology of familiarity to understand the human behavior that's driving all of this. With all that knowledge, we'll build a forensic marketer's playbook with real actionable steps. And finally, we'll deliver our verdict on the pull toward value. Let's get started. Okay, so every good investigation starts at the beginning, right? You have to understand the context. Before we can solve this puzzle, we have to know why the last click fallacy got so big in the first place and why solving it is so urgent right now. This is the story of how an entire industry, armed with more data than ever, somehow lost its way completely in the dark. What you're looking at here is the exact moment the lights went out for old school digital marketing. We call it the privacy event horizon. You see, in the mid-2020s, this perfect storm of privacy changes hit, and it basically shredded the digital paper trail we all relied on. Third-party cookies, the bedrock of web tracking for decades, they just started to vanish. On your phone, the tracking IDs that followed you across apps became strictly opt-in, and no surprise, almost everyone opted out. So in a really short amount of time, the industry's $200 billion tracking machine, a machine built on the promise of perfect one-to-one measurement, was broken for good. An entire generation of marketers who built their careers on simple click-to-conversion reports were suddenly flying completely blind.
But, every crisis creates an opportunity, right? And this one forced a revolution in thinking. It was the moment the smartest folks in the industry realized you just can't rely on a fragile paper trail anymore. This is when fractional logic, based on smart statistical modeling, became the only thing that couldn't be faked or taken away. This led to the rise of what you might call marketing economists, a new kind of leader who gets that a sale isn't a single moment, but a cumulative weight of evidence. The whole conversation shifted. We moved from the old way, obsessing over last click return on ad spend for one channel, to the new way, measuring systemic incrementality, which just means asking a much better question: what's the total lift this activity gives to my entire business? It was a huge shift from trying to track every single step to understanding the most likely path to value. So, if the old tools are broken, what are the new ones? This brings us to the real heart of our investigation. Let's pop the hood on this machine and see how it actually finds the truth in a world of messy, incomplete data. So what is this new tool? First off, this is not just another analytics dashboard. This is a probabilistic weighting engine. Honestly, the best way to think about it is as a really sophisticated capital allocation system for your business. Its whole job is to decide where to invest your marketing dollars for the absolute maximum return. Its core function is to look at all the data it can and assign a precise fractional piece of the credit to every single marketing touchpoint a customer sees, from the first blog post they read to that social media ad they scrolled past last week. And this credit isn't a guess. It's based on the modeled influence of that touchpoint on the final decision to buy. This is how you find the signal in the noise. And this engine isn't some magic black box. It works in 4 distinct logical stages. First up is multi-touch modeling. This is the strategy phase, where you decide on the logic for how credit gets distributed. We'll look at an example in a sec. Second is incrementality testing. Think of this as the scientific validation, the truth serum that proves your model is actually correct. Third is the data clean room. This is like this secure evidence locker where you can bring all your data together in a privacy-safe way to see the full picture. And fourth is systemic yield management. This is where you take action. With this new intelligence, you stop acting like a simple media buyer, just chasing clicks, and you start acting like a sophisticated portfolio manager, investing in a balanced portfolio of influence. This slide really just nails the whole shift in logic. In the old world of last click, the closer, that final ad someone clicked, got 100% of the credit. I mean, come on. That's like giving the MVP trophy only to the basketball player who scored the final basket. It completely ignores the point guard who brought the ball up the court, the center who set the crucial screen, and the forward who made the game-winning pass. The new way, fractional credit, acknowledges that winning is a team sport. It gets that in marketing you have setters, the touch points that introduce your brand, that build trust, and that nurture the relationship long before the final click. The whole goal is to give every player on the team its fair share of the credit. It's actually based on a game theory concept called shapely values, which is just a fancy way of saying we've found a fair method to divvy up the prize among everyone who helped win the game. And here's one of the most common and, frankly, intuitive ways to assign that credit. It's called a U-shaped model. The logic is simple. The 2 most important moments in a customer's journey are the very beginning and the very end. So in this example, the first touch, the moment of discovery, is critical. So it gets a heavy weight, say 40% of the credit. The last touch, the moment of closing the deal, is also critical. So it also gets 40%. The remaining 20% is then just spread evenly across all the nurture touches in the middle. Now, this is just one type of model. There are others, like linear or time decay. The key isn't that one is perfect for everyone, but that you finally move beyond the completely flawed logic of giving 100% of the credit to the last click. But here's the million-dollar question, right? Choosing a model is one thing, but how do you actually prove it's right? How do you know this fractional logic reflects reality and isn't just another fancy guess? Well, this is where the real forensic science comes in. You prove your model is right with the ultimate arbiter of truth, incrementality testing. This is basically the marketing version of a double-blind clinical trial in medicine. You remove all the bias, all the assumptions. You don't guess, you test. The idea is simple but incredibly powerful. You intentionally go dark on a channel. You just turn it off completely, but only in one specific, controlled market for a set period of time. Then you sit back and observe. But you're not just looking at that channel's last click results. No, you're measuring the impact on the total systemic revenue of the entire business in that region, and you're comparing it to a similar region where you changed nothing. Let's make this real with an example. So look at region A. You run your marketing as usual, business as usual, and you generate $1.2 million in sales. Cool. Now in region B, a similar market, you do the exact same thing with one tiny exception. You turn off all your Facebook ads. Now, your old last-click dashboard might have told you those Facebook ads were only responsible for maybe $20,000 in sales, so you'd expect revenue to drop just a little to $1.18 million. But when you look at the actual results, you see total sales in region B have dropped all the way to $1.1 million. That extra $100,000 difference, that is the true systemic incremental lift of that Facebook channel. It wasn't just closing $20,000 in sales, it was influencing another $100,000 in sales across all your other channels. This is how you find the hidden impact. So we've seen the data, we've seen the mechanism, but the most important question is still hanging out there. Why? Why does this whole system work so well? To answer that, we have to shift gears from economics to psychology and really understand the human behavior that this entire architecture is built on. This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. It reveals the core conflict between how machines measure success and how humans actually make decisions. Ad platforms are built on platform logic. Their algorithms are designed for one thing: immediate, measurable actions. To them, an ad that is seen but not clicked on is a failure. It's a wasted impression. But that's just not how people work. We operate on human logic. And for us, a view with no click isn't a failure at all. It's an investment. It's a tiny deposit into the bank of familiarity and trust. It's the beginning of a relationship, not the end of a transaction. And this human logic is powered by a super well-documented psychological principle called the mere exposure effect. It's a proven phenomenon where we, as humans, develop a preference for things simply because we're familiar with them. Our brains are hardwired to trust what we recognize. Think about it. Why do you pick one brand of toothpaste over another, even if you've never used it? It's probably because you've seen its logo or its ads dozens of times. Every time a user sees your brand in their feed and just scrolls past, the platform's logic marks that as a failure. But the human brain, it's doing something completely different. It's filing that away, thinking, oh yeah, I've seen this before. It must be legit. It must be safe. This is how you build what we call neural familiarity. You are literally building trust inside your customer's mind long before a click ever happens. Okay, we've gone through the theory, the mechanics, the psychology. Now let's get practical and put it all together into an actionable framework. This is the forensic marketer's playbook, the steps you can actually take to transform your own marketing from a guessing game into a capital-efficient machine. The playbook has 3 core steps. Step 1, select your source of truth. This is foundational. It's non-negotiable. You have to stop letting the ad platforms grade their own homework. They are, by definition, biased. You have to choose an independent third-party tool to be your objective source of truth. Step 2, define your weighted logic. Once you have that tool, you have to make a conscious decision to move away from the default last-click model. You can start with a simple model like the U-shaped one we talked about. The goal is just to pick a logic that values both discovery and closing, not just the final action. And step 3, implement incrementality sprints. This is where the science happens. Your model is a hypothesis. The incrementality sprint is the experiment that proves it right or wrong. You have to build the discipline to systematically test the true impact of your channels. This is where the real power of an incrementality sprint is revealed. The playbook says that every quarter, you have to be brave enough to fire one of your main channels for 2 weeks in a test market. And if your total systemic revenue doesn't drop, well, that channel was a vampire. It wasn't a productive employee at all. It was just stealing the credit from your other channels. It wasn't generating new sales. It was just showing up at the last second to take credit for sales that were going to happen anyway. This process is how you do a performance review on your marketing dollars. It's how you audit every single dollar and make sure you're strategically allocating capital, not just spending money. We have covered a ton of ground in this investigation. We've seen the crime of the last-click fallacy, we've inspected the forensic tools of the weighting engine, and we've understood the psychology that makes it all tick. Now, it's time to deliver the final verdict. In the end, this whole forensic deep dive leads us to a single, powerful conclusion. True, sustainable growth, it isn't a straight line. It's not a funnel you can just force people through. Growth is learned. It's the result of patiently building a bridge of truth over this giant canyon of platform lies. The best marketing, the most capital-efficient marketing, doesn't push, it earns trust. It builds familiarity, and it gently, patiently pulls people toward value. And so the final question this investigation leaves us with is a really simple one. In your business, right now, are you still pushing, or have you finally learned how to pull?